So look, commenting on the decision by Texas to join this case, we heard from Letitia James, the AG for NY. Today she said, we are more confident than ever that enforcing our antitrust laws as they were meant to be enforced is the best way to protect competition in the mobile marketplace. What does that mean? How should they be enforced, and are they being enforced rightly in this case?
Well, certainly they are being enforced. I mean, the Department of Justice Antitrust Division took a very long time to get to where they got. It's a complex series of conditions, both divestitures, the deal with Dish, so both the network sharing with T-Mobile, the Sprint spectrum that's at play. And what this does, it gives the opportunity to unlock that spectrum that Dish has and put that to use. So what we had was a marketplace where there were basically two more dominant providers, Verizon, number one, AT&T, number two, and they were sort of in this top tier. Then you had a distant T-Mobile and a more distant Sprint. And so you're combining number three and number four in that regard to come into the top tier. So you were going from 2 to 3 competitors when it comes to 5G, and that's what's being built out. And now a fourth. So Dish had a lot of spectrum, and this helps unlock and spark the construction of that network and to light up a new network and bring more competition.
And Robert, on the point of Dish, this has been one of the, I suppose, the gripes of the states is that they say, well, look, why would a combined T-Mobile Sprint want to help Dish? Because why would they help a competitor potentially get better and therefore more competitive? And it's an interesting question because behavioral remedies, we know, are often very, very difficult to enforce. You obviously have been in the job of running the FCC, which will be sort of overseeing some of this good behavior. How can they do it, and what risks are there that Dish will just be allowed to sort of remain a subscale player?
Excellent question. So you're going to have a couple of layers of enforcement here. So the Department of Justice takes their conditions, the divestitures, the Dish deal, et cetera, to a U.S. District Court here in Washington, D.C. under what we call the Tunney Act. So a federal judge will review the deal, and that's going to take a few weeks, but that'll be done this fall. And that will be enforceable. The DOJ can always go back to court to enforce any aspect of the deal that is not being complied with. Similar with the FCC, we haven't seen a draft order yet, but that should be coming in a few weeks, we hope. And the FCC will have, I'm sure, stiff fines and penalties for the companies if they're not living up to their end of the bargain. So that's two prongs of attack, if you will, for consumer on behalf of consumer protection, should all these companies not be complying. So, it's belts and suspenders in terms of protection for consumers and the competitive marketplace.
And in terms of the sort of the regulatory theatrics of this, which have been entertaining, at least for us in the media over the last few months and years, we do have this slightly unusual situation where you have the SEC having come out sort of independently from Justice. Now you have Justice having come out and back the deal. We still don't have all of the states on board, and indeed we have some states still going against Justice. Why are we seeing this sort of lack of cohesion among the different regulatory bodies?
Well, I think there is cohesion among the federal regulators, but also keep in mind there are about 18 states and their public utility commissions who have approved the deal. We've had CFIUS and Team Telecom approvals as well at the federal level. So actually, when you look at the great weights of who has approved the deal, it far outweighs the state attorneys general who, maybe for political reasons or headline exposure, et cetera, are involved in what I think will ultimately be a fool's errand, that they have such a tough uphill climb at this point now that DOJ has blessed the deal.
Well, let's talk
there's
about
probably a lot of reasons.
Rob, I just want to pull you on that. So look, the companies are obviously going to want to get this settled. They don't want it to drag on and on and on indefinitely. What can they do to get the states over the line now?
Well, the ones who are litigating, or so I think hopefully the states will give up and understand that the settlement with DOJ really is in their favor. It undercuts the complaint that they filed in New York, and there were no damages, no risks to begin with. But if there was any doubt about that, that was removed last Friday when the DOJ had blessed this deal. So I think as the states really understand and look at what is happening and what has happened, and follow the Tunney Act approval here in Washington, D.C. By the federal judge here, they will realize that they have a loser of a case. It is tremendously persuasive to the court in New York to have the Department of Justice Antitrust Division go to such great lengths to make this deal work and to cure any alleged defects in it, which, again, I don't think there were any defects, but this removes all doubt. So they have the burden, and it's going to be tough.